Coming up, 2016, a look back. Voters lined up in a year of political change. We had our share of severe weather.
We got about at least 8 inches of water in our basement.
It should be easier for commuters to get around with improvements on 2 major freeways.
It was really frustrating to see all of the other communities have their 3 lanes and Plymouth just have the 2 lanes.
And what happens when heroes step in.
This will absolutely stick with me the rest of my life.
2016, a look back begins right now. Hello everyone and Happy New Year.
As we head into the new year, we're going to take a moment and remember where we've been in 2016. We'll also remember some of our favorite stories that touch the heart.
And the weather is one story that touched us all in one way or another. Despite having the 6th warmest winter on record last season, we also lived through one of the biggest snowfalls in more than 5 years. Groundhog's Day brought 13.5 inches of snow to the Northwest Metro. That's the most since December of 2010. And we went from the biggest snowfall in years to a record wet year with more than 40 inches of precipitation. Summer ended with a rainstorm that brought 10 inches of rain to the Northwest Metro. Sonia Goins takes a look back.
They called it the 100-year flood. 2 to 3 inches of rain fell in 45 minutes. There was so much water on the roads, MnDOT brought out a snowplow to clear water on Interstate 94 near Highway 169. The gushing rains caused a big-time headache for residents in Maple Grove. The area of Larch Lane and 92nd Avenue looked like a swamp.
I think the sewer broke and the water come up just like a volcano.
Cuvette Wynn's Toyota Camry couldn't make it through the high water.
I see the cup of coffee floating. I said, no. Is that the water in the car?
Public Works crews used an industrial-sized pump to get rid of the rainwater. The rain also caused problems for homeowners. Valerie Felder's Parker's basement took in a lot of water.
We got about at least 8 inches of water in our basement.
Valerie has lived in this home for 4 years and says she's never seen anything like this.
It's all wet.
Brooklyn Park also felt the wrath of Mother Nature. The rain fell so hard, backyards were turned into lakes.
Going down to the lake behind our house, which, oh yeah, it used to be dry.
Experts with the National Weather Service say a wet summer doesn't necessarily mean we're due for a snowy winter, but early indications are we'll see more snow and colder temperatures than last year. Sonia Goins, CCX News.
And some homeowners could be eligible for a FEMA grant or low-interest federal loan. A disaster recovery center is now open at the old Brooklyn Park Library on Zane Avenue.
When it comes to politics, the election of Donald Trump may have been the big national story, but locally, election results produced big changes at all levels of government.
Dear council member,
to the best of my judgment and ability.
To the best of my judgment and ability.
Congratulations.
The Brooklyn Park City Council welcomed its first member of color with the election of Hmong American Susan Pa, representing the city's West District. Election results also tipped the balance of power at the state legislature. Plymouth Republican Paul Anderson helped Republicans gain control of the state Senate when he narrowly beat Minnetonka Democrat Deb Calvert for the seat held by longtime DFL State Senator Terry Bonoff.
Working in state government and working closely with the caucuses and understanding the system, I think that experience will go a long ways to help our communities get things done.
The party power change at the state capitol also means that longtime Brooklyn Park Democratic Representative Melissa Hortman will now become the party's minority leader. There are those among us who rush toward trouble to save someone when everyone else is fleeing.
And we have 2 such stories from 2016.
The chaotic nature of this call was one of the most chaotic scenes I've ever been on.
On October 11th, dozens of police and firefighters converged on Golden Valley Road after a car crashed into Bassett Creek and burst into flames.
When I arrived, I could see flames coming out of the creek. I couldn't see the vehicle. It was too far down the embankment.
As they worked to put out the flames, first responders found the driver near the creek and could hear someone banging from inside the car.
Officer Petrolke took his asp and hit the back window, and that is when the back window broke and was able to get to the child.
In all, it took just 10 minutes to save a life.
This will absolutely stick with me the rest of my life.
In April, Osseo police followed an erratic driver who was swerving from one side of the road to the other, at one point forcing cars into the ditch and sideswiping a bus. Now look at the pickup truck passing on the right. That's Rick Pocklington, who saw what was happening and wanted to create a roadblock. It worked, and you can see the tires still spinning after the car rear-ended Pocklington.
He did it, out of public safety in mind. In speaking to him about it, he laughed. He said, I just wanted this to end. I could see this car head on with these other people in the other lane, and he was scared for everyone's safety, so he put his own in danger.
Pocklington received a Citizens Award from the Osseo City Council. And it turned out the driver had suffered a diabetic reaction and was unable to stop his truck.
Getting from here to there this year was anything but easy. Construction projects snarled the metro, but as Shannon Slatton explains, the purpose is to someday make your commute easier.
2016 started with a new way to ease the commute.
I don't have to worry about driving in the snow.
A suburban bus route down the I-494 corridor opened with much fanfare in January, but was canceled in March because of low ridership. And with the spring, construction resumed on 494, the second year of improvements and adding a third lane.
People will see smooth sailing all the way through there.
Construction wrapped up in the fall on 494, but construction also ended on Highway 610, the North Crosstown, which has been in the works for literally decades.
It was driven by citizens that recognized the value of having a North Crosstown going all the way from 35 over to 94, and it was a vital link that they recognized.
Another project that is a marathon instead of a sprint is the path to bring light rail to the Northwest Metro. Golden Valley, Robbinsdale, Crystal, and Brooklyn Park held public hearings, meetings, and much more, all to gauge impact of the Metro Blue Line extension.
I believe the light rail line is going to bring in a lot of economic development and help a lot of our businesses in downtown Crystal.
I don't feel comfortable putting my name behind something that's fuzzy.
The current path will go from Target Field to Oak Grove Parkway with 11 proposed stations along the way. The price tag of the Blue Line extension also went up this year to $1.54 billion. Construction is scheduled to begin in 2018. Shannon Slatton, CCX News.
There was disagreement in 2016 over how to revitalize a shopping mall and closed movie theater in Robbinsdale.
The story of the Terrace Theater stretched from City Hall to the courthouse to the theater's parking lot, as Delane Cleveland reports.
It's a very sad day.
It's said that what goes up must eventually come down. And this past fall, that's exactly what happened to Robbinsdale's historic Terrace Theater.
I just am sad that there was no room for discussion, there was no room for compromise. It was this or nothing.
Yet getting to that point of demolition was a long and arduous process. The Terrace first opened in May of 1951. At the time, it was considered one of the most glamorous theaters in the country. However, it closed in 1999 and later fell into a state of disrepair. Recently, though, a vocal group emerged that wanted to preserve the Terrace for its historical significance.
It was put together by masters of the trade, the very best theater designers, and it's an important turning point. We went from Art Deco to modernism.
Eric Hansen represented the group that tried to save the Terrace. When demolition crews first tried to knock down the theater on September 24th, Hansen raced to the scene with a judge-signed court order to halt demolition.
We got an order halting the demolition until at least 4:30 on Monday. We've filed an appeal to the Minnesota Court of Appeals, and they haven't had a chance to rule on it.
The victory turned out to be short-lived. The following week, a Hennepin County judge allowed demolition to proceed after friends of the Terrace failed to come up with $6.3 million in bonds. The decision paved the way for a Hy-Vee grocery store to go up in place of the historic movie theater.
We have a lot of very good memories here.
In Robbinsdale, Delane Cleveland, CCX News.
Many residents said the theater had become an eyesore and they were anxious to see it replaced. In 2017, work is expected to begin on a new Hy-Vee grocery store. Coming up, he wasn't there to receive it, but a Crystal man got a military honor that was long overdue.
But first, a check of your AccuWeather forecast.
A veteran from Crystal received an honor this September that was 47 years overdue.
As Delane Cleveland explains, Navy Corpsman John Christensen was awarded the Purple Heart for injuries he suffered in Vietnam.
It's a huge honor. You can't measure it.
The Purple Heart is awarded to members of the armed forces who suffer wounds in combat.
The Purple Heart is one of the most honored medals that you can earn in the service. It's also the oldest medal, awarded by George Washington for valor.
Hospital Corpsman John Christensen earned his Purple Heart on March 20th, 1970.
He was in Vietnam, and he was in a tent with a bunch of other guys. And they were sitting in a circle, probably on their time off, visiting.
What happened next, according to John's wife Angie, is that his tent was hit with friendly fire.
He got shrapnel in his back, and a guy about maybe 3 feet away from him got hit and died right there.
It was an injury that affected John from that day forward. Yet for decades, he never wanted to apply for the Purple Heart he deserved.
Because it was friendly fire, he didn't know if he'd get it or not.
For many Vietnam veterans,
most of us didn't talk about our experience.
It's a period of their lives many chose to forget about.
We got the feeling when we got home that they not only didn't care about what we did, but were disrespectful for the sacrifices in the service.
But in recent years, Don Fernstrom says more are opening up and getting the recognition they deserve, which brings us to today.
Unfortunately, we cannot hear from John today.
47 years after being injured and nearly a year after his death, Angie Christensen received the long overdue honor on John's behalf.
I know that he would be more than honored to receive it, and for me to be able to receive it for him, I think that's an honor, and he knows that.
John had filed the paperwork to receive the Purple Heart from his hospital bed at the VA hospital before he died last year. Well, coming up, how simplifying life can also be the sweet life.
We will be right back.
I'm John Jacobson with sports. 2016 featured great individual and team performances, section and state championships, and so much more. Here now is a look back at some of the top local prep highlights from the year past. The Armstrong girls skied in with one of the year's first state championships. The Falcons, led by senior Hannah Rudd, won the state Nordic title in Bowabic, supplanting three-time defending champion Wayzata. The Trojans finished second.
Going Wendy to the front, and she scores!
What a year for hockey. Maple Grove won its section in girls hockey and reached the state Class AA championship before losing in overtime to Eden Prairie. It was the best finish in school history for the Crimson.
Benson falls down 2-0 and a goal.
A best in school history finish is what the Wayzata boys hockey team enjoyed as well. The Trojans won a tough Section 6 AA tournament, then beat Burnsville, Stillwater, and Eden Prairie to set off a wild state victory celebration for the Trojans. This area again produced a number of strong basketball teams. Osseo surprised a lot of people by going into the state boys tournament with an unbeaten record. The Orioles reached the Class 4A semifinals before suffering their first loss.
What a block by Reaver!
Hopkins won its 7th state title since 2002 as the Royals defeated North St. Paul, Apple Valley, and Lakeville North en route to the championship. Both Park Center and Hopkins reached the state 4A tournament in girls basketball. The Royals defeated the Pirates in the tournament quarterfinals, but later lost in the title game to Minnetonka. To the spring sports and girls golf. Heritage Christian Academy junior Kiera Smith won the Class A tournament by a single stroke to win her 2nd state title. This area was also home to some terrific talent in track and field. A score of local athletes took home medals, while the Wayzata boys won state for a 2nd year in a row. In baseball, both Champlain Park and Wayzata won their way through all the way to the championship game in Class 3A. The final state tournament game of the spring took place on a Monday night at Target Field, and the Trojans beat the Rebels to capture the title. In the fall, All-American Sydney Hilly headlined a great class of volleyball players. The senior led Champlain Park to its 3rd straight state tournament, where the Rebels lost in the final to Egan. In boys cross country, Wayzata took home championship hardware for the 10th time in school history. 3 of the top 5 finishers in the state Class AA race were from the area. Wayzata's Khalid Hussein, Seth Eliason of Hopkins and Alex Miley of Maple Grove. Carly Quast of Wayzata set a new state girls swimming meet record in the 200 freestyle race, winning in a time of 1 minute 47.33 seconds. In football, deep playoff runs for both Champlin Park and Maple Grove. Led by Metro Player of the Year Brad Davison, the Crimson won 7 games, losing in the state quarterfinals to Eden Prairie, while the Rebels won back-to-back thrillers against Eastfield and Rosemont before falling to Eden Prairie in the state 6A semifinals. At the Prep Bowl, both Benilde St. Margaret's and Totino Grace won titles. The Red Knights rallied to beat Winona to win its first state championship, while the Eagles, playing up 2 classes, won its 10th championship overall, but first ever in Class 6A, beating perennial power Eden Prairie 28-20.
All right, an exciting year. Thanks a lot, John. And coming up, one of our favorite stories of the year.
Yeah, how 2 guys traded in a corporate life for something a whole lot different. Finally, one of our favorite stories is about a donut shop that's surging in popularity.
We met the new owners who took a chance, made a life-changing decision that is now having sweet success.
Okay, here for you.
It's a little after 6:30 on a Friday morning, and there's a line out the door at Valley Pastries.
Anything else for you?
Customers come to this spot for the classics, glazed and frosted. First time here?
No, not at all. Not even the first time this week, so.
They have the best donuts that I've ever had.
A taste for good donuts is why the 2 friends behind the counter, Alex Loosbrock and Michael Getty, traded in their corporate jobs last year to buy this nearly 30-year-old family-run donut shop and its recipes.
Talking to the wives to do was
talking to the wives is tough, but we essentially cashed in our 401k. You know, we took out our 401k and bought a business.
But with the risk comes reward.
There's very few people in a bad mood coming to get their donuts.
Sales are up more than 30% as the new owners freshened up the shop's look and put the word out on social media.
I kind of want to coin the phrase donuts the way you remember them. That donut that you had when you were a kid in your grandpa and grandma's small little town, that, you know, just the taste is just so good and it's so fresh.
Hey Mike. Hey man, how you doing? Good, man.
There's a small town feel too. Customers are on a first name basis.
This is what you call a guilty pleasure. You come and buy donuts just for yourself. I'm not sharing my donuts with those people.
Running a donut shop isn't all a cakewalk, yet on the toughest of days, these 2 corporate world transplants remind each other they've landed a pretty sweet new gig.
Because we went from jockeying a desk, sitting on conference calls and dealing with really, really big like corporate problems to it's donuts. They're $1 a piece. We either have them or we don't. You know, and it's really simple. So we love the simplicity of it. Yeah.
And that is a sweet way to end 2016. Happy New Year, everyone.
We wish you a safe and prosperous 2017, and we'll see you in the new year.